Welcome to 2025, the new era of AI, the new era of tech, the new era of the internet, the IoS era. No, not that one. I mean, the internet of shit. Let's get after it.
You are listening to CEO Retort.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to 2025. Happy New Year. Hope you had a lovely break in December because, boy, we needed that break. In my case, that was my first period of the year, or the last period of the year, because I only drink alcohol twice a year. One of them is during the Christmas season. So, yeah, that's why my brain is kind of taking its time to recover because I had a good time. I needed that alcohol before the start of 2025 because, my goodness, what a start to 2025. One of the things I have to tell you, now we're entering half of January at the time of the recording of this video. And so far, the conversations I had with business people, other entrepreneurs, there's this sense of hope, which is not a good thing. Because you see, in business, you tend to have confidence that certain things will happen, especially in the world of tech. What sort of things do you expect to emerge in 2025 so that you can be strategic about it? You can start potentially looking for opportunities, etc. But right now, that's not the case. There's a lot of unknowns. It's a bit of a gray area. And basically, people are hoping that things are not going to be bad. Now, the last time I remember that sort of environment was before the financial crash in 2008. That's why that's not a good start to the year, is it? And I agree. I mean, I have no confidence of what's going to happen, in fact, in 2025. I made predictions in this video that I published in August, I think it was 2024, where I described how politics have destroyed AI market. Whatever AI utopia that any of us had, it's just not going to happen. And effectively, everything that we're seeing happening right now is basically materializing quicker than I expected. I thought this is something that would happen within the next 4 years. So the capitulation of the billionaires to Trump, the idea that Meta decided to completely go down the road of X and start having excretions instead of posts that are somewhat genuine, although it's still filled up with a lot of crap and garbage, as all social media platforms do. But, you know, one of the things that Facebook have done, I wouldn't say successfully, because obviously we had all of the cases, these horrible cases of children and teenagers that committed suicide and harmed themselves, etc., went into severe depression as a direct result of Meta's platforms. That was under whatever moderations that they had. So imagine that now they want to remove these moderations, because that's what Zuckerberg announced. He said that he doesn't want any more moderations because he feels that apparently he was suppressing freedom of speech. I mean, he didn't say it in these words, but basically he says that he wants Meta to go back to its roots of freedom of speech, which is kind of bizarre because is he admitting that he's been suppressing freedom of speech? I mean, how do you defend this? It's like, so basically, are you saying that you were suppressing freedom of speech and now suddenly you want to be the freedom of speech absolutist number 2? After Musk, of course, is the freedom of speech absolutist number 1, apparently. I mean, it's crazy. But politics aside, I mean, I made a few comments on that on LinkedIn. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, please make sure you do. I've got the links in the description because that's where we have some amazing discussions. And I know many of you who are following me on LinkedIn, you're listening to this podcast as well. I want to thank you so much for all of your support, the level of engagements that you guys add to every single post that I publish. It's truly phenomenal because I learn from you just as much as I hope you learn something from me. Absolutely amazing. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And make sure to subscribe on YouTube and you like, but also give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple. It really helps the algorithms to push all of our messages out there and grow our community even further. It doesn't cost you anything, so please do so. Really, really do appreciate it. But what I talked about on LinkedIn, and some people even kind of called me out for me being somewhat pessimistic, but as I said at the beginning of this episode, that I'm trying to be optimistic, but I can't. I'll be lying to you if I say to you that I'm being optimistic. The reality is, I don't know. I mean, I'm not being too pessimistic. I'm pessimistic because I don't have any signs that give me any kind of optimism. That's why I'm pessimistic, which is not a good thing. The only optimistic idea I have that's kind of swirling in my head, which is a little bit biased because I'm based in the UK and in Europe, is that this could be an opportunity for Europe to shine. And I even talked about this in my reaction of Trump's winning the election on this video over here. And I said there that I think Europe has the opportunity to stand its ground when it comes to AI and tech innovation. We're still pretty much behind compared to you guys in America and Silicon Valley. But I think what Trump wants to do with the tariffs and this creating America into this isolationist country, kind of like what we did here with Brexit. And I'm telling you, from our experience, people just left. And I think a lot of people are just going to leave the US. So Europe is the place where things can absolutely happen, so long as, of course, the Europeans and the European governments don't frick it up. I mean, I try not to swear, but my resolution for 2025 is to swear less. So you get what I'm trying to say, because Europe tend to screw things up. There's always kind of optimism, and then something happens and they completely just screw everything up. Like what we had in the UK with Brexit. London was becoming the Silicon Valley of the world, not the Silicon Valley of the UK or Europe or whatever. Oh no, the Silicon Valley of AI globally. And then, of course, we decided, no, we can't have that. Let's just shoot ourselves in the head with Brexit. And now, at the time of the recording of this video, the UK government would have announced its major AI plan, which, I'm somewhat optimistic, but the reality is there's no way in hell they can achieve whatever plan they want to achieve with AI if they don't get rid of Brexit. That's just not going to happen. The fact that we somehow, the UK, this tiny island in Europe, or off Europe, I should say, can single-handedly become the world leader, actually, not just the European leader, but the world leader in AI, whilst not having any bridges built with Europe. It's for the birds, because we were the AI leader. I was part of that. I was part of that cohort that made London the AI leader of the world before Brexit. So I know, I was there. I'm one of the people that made it so, until Brexit came in and destroyed it. So now I'm telling you, there's no way in a billion years we can do that without us having some kind of a close relationship with Europe. I'm not suggesting for us to rejoin the EU, because that's not going to happen. I mean, I can't see how that can happen from the legal perspective and political perspective. It's just impossible. But at least we need to have a much deeper integration with our closest allies and our closest neighbors. It's a simple business sense here. So anyway, but nonetheless, the general message of Europe that we want to be focusing on responsible AI, we want to be focusing on regulation. And America, of course, is focusing now under Trump towards deregulation. And again, I always challenge people on LinkedIn, especially people said, oh, well, we should have deregulation because it's there so we can innovate more. Okay. So are you telling me all of the crap that you see right now, all of the negative reporting of thousands and thousands of children committing suicide and harming themselves as a direct result of what's happening in social media, or the things that I reported on LinkedIn in relation to these horrific chatbots that emerged on character AI, pedophilic chatbots, or chatbots that encourage children to harm themselves as well, etc., etc. I mean, the examples are just rife. And the idea that all of that happened with our current regulations, or rather, I should say the lack of. So imagine what we're going to have when we have less regulations. We're going to have a lot more of that garbage that is going to be damaging to you as a user, to businesses, but above all, the internet. You see, the whole point of the internet, I remember the early days of the internet where it was genuinely the place where you share information. If you want to know what the internet looked like in the old days, especially a lot of the listeners here are young people, just check out young Sheldon. I was basically probably the same age as him at the time when I was using command lines to access the internets and stuff like that. It was amazing. I loved it. This is basically how the internet used to work. And you used it as a way to extract information. You communicate with people. It was really, really awesome. Now, the internet, of course, is still awesome, I would say. But what made it less awesome is social media. Not because social media platforms in themselves are bad. I use them a lot myself. But it's the fact that when social media becomes so dominant, especially Meta's social media platform, so we're talking about Instagram, Facebook, maybe Threads. I mean, I don't know who uses Threads, but you can include it there. But considering that billions of people have access to Meta, and the fact that Meta is basically not going to have any guardrails at all. So they already didn't have good enough guardrails to prevent the issues that I've just highlighted. No, they're not going to have any guardrails whatsoever. So literally they want to turn it into a gigantic version of X or Twitter, what it used to be called. That's really, really bad because it seems so inward looking. It's all about, it's how we do things in America. But the rest of the world has access to these platforms too. But it seems that they don't care what the rest of the world thinks. And why should they care? You can say, you might thought, hey, they are American companies. Why should they? In the same way, if we're here in Britain, why should we care about what everybody else thinks about outside the UK? Yeah, perhaps. But the reality, we live in a very closely connected world. That's what the internet has done. So if companies use your technologies outside your country, you do have some kind of responsibility to make sure that the users of your technology are protected. So the fact that they're kind of saying that, oh, we don't want to censor it. I mean, are you seriously telling me that everything that we've seen, all of the bad stuff and all of the weird stuff and the Cambridge Analytica stuff was under censorship? Are you for real? So I call it Internet of Shit because we're already seeing an endless proliferation of AI generated slop. Add to that more garbage from meta platforms, in addition to all the garbage from X. That's not a really good internet though, is it? And I find that really heartbreaking. And this would lead what some researchers defined as model collapse. So effectively, the AI models that require more and more data, well, now they're going to be facing data that is generated by other AI, which is lower quality, in addition to garbage content from low quality or misinformation that you see all over social networks. So what's left? Not much. So the quality of the AI models is going to be a lot lower. And that's called model collapse. Effectively, think of it as a snake eating its own tail. This is the situation that we're in right now. So it's kind of ironic because a lot of these companies are basically capitulating to Trump and trying to do whatever he wants. I mean, you can agree or disagree with it. That's not the point. The point is that is going to destroy AI. I've already explained that in my previous videos. That will destroy AI. It will destroy the quality of AI. It will destroy the quality of the internet in general, because it's going to be pushing just one biased arguments that is biased towards the MAGA movement. And that's not good. I mean, how is that freedom of speech? People talk about freedom of speech. Everything, like, again, I made that discussion on LinkedIn. And surprisingly, I didn't get as much pushback as I expected. In fact, most people agreed with me when I said that all of the misinformation that you see out there, that's not freedom of speech. That's actually harmful. Again, depending on what kind of misinformation. Again, this is an area that I've worked on for over 10 years. I've researched misinformation. Okay, it was mostly for science and healthcare, which is kind of easier to manage from and discover in terms of misinformation, but the principles still apply. Misinformation is all about serving one group of people. So the people who push any misinformation campaign, they're doing it not because they give a shit about you, but rather because they have an agenda and they want to push that agenda, and they try to misinform you in such a way that even if you don't necessarily agree with them generally, say politically, you'll be convinced that what they're telling you is actually correct. And in fact, this is called psychographic modeling. And I think the first video ever that I published on YouTube, that before it was a podcast, so I kept the YouTube channel as is for the CEO Retort. I don't want to delete any of my old videos or start a new channel, because the way I see it is like, I want people to see how I evolved over time, how crap I was, and I'm still not great. I'm improving, but I'm building this podcast. But I'm a big believer that I want to keep a track record of everything that I said for as long as I possibly can. And I believe either the first ever or the second ever video that I published on the YouTube channel of the CEO Retort, which was not called CEO Retort at the time, I talked about how we can use AI behavioral modeling to change your behavior. Basically the kind of thing that Cambridge Analytica did. My company, Nebula, we know how to do that too. And people get shocked every time when I say to them, that is so easy for us to change your behavior. And people always say to me, oh, we can't change my behavior, Tim. Oh, my friends, we can change your behavior. If I make a decision that my company is going to run some kind of misinformation campaign to change your behavior, we can do it and we will change your behavior, and you wouldn't even necessarily know about it. Because it's a technique, it's nudging. It's about how do we nudge you in one direction in a tiny, tiny way, and do that over time. This is something that what the political campaigners and campaigns have done really well over the years, especially for the MAGA movement. I think they've done a great job. They knew what they were doing. The Democrats and the left, they just kept on fighting whatever, and they screwed up. So here we are. Again, I'm not supporting any side. I always say this, like I've seen, when I research misinformation, I've seen so much vitriol on both sides. Like in the UK, for example, if you were to say anything against Jeremy Corbyn of the Labour Party in the past, man, the sort of hate you get online was truly unbelievable. It's the same thing that you get right now. If you attack Trump, people go nuts, absolutely crazy. So you find that on both sides. That's why I said I don't want to be involved in any of these people, because as far as I'm concerned, these are two pretty idiotic fringes that don't represent the vast majority of the people. But of course, then you will say, well, how come, Tim, the vast majority of the people vote for one side or the other? It's called psychographic modeling, behavioral change. How do we use AI campaigns, certain nudges to change your behavior into whatever direction we choose. Which is the reason why, by the way, I call for regulation, because I don't want to have that kind of ability. The only reason I don't use it, because I choose not to use it. There's no law that is stopping me. I can, like I said, I can literally do it. If I decide one day I want to wake up and be an evil dude and basically say, you know what, I want to change people's behavior so that they can treat me as God. Wahaha. Okay, maybe not that bad, but you get my picture, right? I can do it. No, nobody can stop me. I mean, and that's dangerous. Hence, I literally, for years, I've been saying to the previous government, guys, please regulate me. Happily, regulate my company. I don't want to have that kind of responsibility. But nope. And talking about the UK government, the expectation that they want to capitulate to the tech sector and start compromising our copyright laws in the UK, which actually, by the way, has been quite successful. And again, you should check my discussion with Raoul Lum, who's one of the top UK tech lawyers, who's an expert in this area. And in fact, I'm bringing another lawyer who's an expert in this field as well from a slightly different angle. And the UK has been a world leader in the creative industries. So we never had problems with copyright. But suddenly now the UK government wants to basically compromise our copyright so they can improve the training quality of AI. Really? So yeah, so many of us are going to be fighting this because I think that's stupid. It's ridiculous. We can't do that. We absolutely cannot do that. But this is the kind of world that we're going to move into. It's like we're going to see government capitulating to the tech billionaires. And I actually created a poll. So if you guys, I put a link, it's a poll on YouTube where I'm asking you, what do you think is going to be the word of the year? And I actually think oligarchy is going to be the word of the year. Because I think for the first time, probably, well, in modern history, I'm not a historian, but certainly in my lifetime, we will have a Western oligarchy in the form of course, the United States of America, and maybe somewhere in the UK, maybe in Europe as well. I don't know. Right now in the UK, we're not there yet. But if we already have a Labour government capitulating to the tech sector in this way that is willing to deregulate copyrights as well, out of all things, that's bad. That's not good. That's not good. Now, again, like I said, the time of the recording of this video, the announcement hasn't come out yet. So I will be discussing that with the expert that I've just mentioned, who's an IP lawyer as well. From what I've seen, all of the leaked documents and things like that. I'm happy that they want to add more investment into UK's AI sector, which, by the way, as I said, we've been doing that already before, but they're increasing it. Great. But to break our copyright laws, that's bad. That's really bad. So yeah, so it's a short episode. I don't want to go on about this. It's really more of a welcoming episode for 2025. And it's like, yeah, it's not particularly welcoming, but I don't know what to say about 2025, my friends, really. Please feel free to comment. Tell me what you think we should expect in 2025. I made that kind of questions on LinkedIn as well, and I'm not getting sort of good responses, to be honest. In a sense, good as in nobody feels confident. But like I said, I speak to the business community a lot. I speak to my counterparts. Yes, we're all getting on with what we're doing. We're pushing, with my company, we're coming up with some really cool new ideas. With this podcast, I'm building it. Like I said, I've got a list of amazing guests already. I mean, from that point of view, it feels promising. It feels good. But at the end of the day, if the world becomes chaotic, we all suffer. So that's why I really want to make sure that we are all aware of the fact that we are right now a bunch of frogs in a boiling water. The issue is, for me, that this boiling water is going to turn into lava unless we start speaking out. That's my concern. Now, can we prevent it? Yes. Can we get out of the boiling water? No. We're kind of stuck in it. The question is, how long can we make sure that the water doesn't get any hotter and then doesn't turn into lava? That's basically what I'm worried about. But we are right now a bunch of frogs in a boiling water, all of us. And that's why I think we don't know where this is going. We're just hoping that the lava doesn't come pouring in soon. But certainly I feel there will be a major financial event sooner rather than later. I'm feeling the sort of vibes that I felt back in 2006, 2008, or maybe 2006 when the credit crunch started that led to the financial crisis all over the world. And like I said, I've never felt the business community being this negative since then, right? Even during the pandemic, things didn't feel as negative, believe it or not, right? The financial crash in 2008, for those who are too young to remember that, it was bad, guys. It was really, really bad. That was when I actually lost my first company as well. But hey, that was also the way that opened up. Like I said, one of the hope that I have, even if there is a major bad event, something positive may come out of it. That always tends to happen. So I lost my company during a financial crash, and that gave me the opportunity to get into Google campus in London. That basically brought me to where I am today. So, you never know. But generally speaking, I think we are going to be in a precarious year. And I think the only thing we can do is to keep this communication open. What I'm going to be doing, my plan for 2025, that I want to put a lot of attention on mental health. I shared with you on this episode about my personal experience with loneliness and mental health and how I dealt with it. And hopefully, sharing my story can help you if you're suffering from that as well. I mean, so many people suffer from this thing, and I think it's going to get worse. Again, if people are stressed, people are worried and concerned, do expect a massive rise in mental health problems in 2025. That's going to be an inevitable outcome. So I want to talk a lot about that. I've got already a few experts lined up for this. I'm going to talk a lot about the regulation side of things, what's going to happen, what's the consequences of deregulation. I think we're going to witness the consequences as we speak. Now we've seen, social media platforms completely now lost control of their content, willingly, by the way, not because they had to. There were no laws that told them that they had to do what they were doing. It was a choice. In the same way, there are no laws that told them you must now give away all of your controls because of Trump, whatever. No, that's all a choice. All of this was chosen by the oligarchs that are controlling the tech sector today. This is what I talked about in that video that I mentioned earlier. Politics has now completely infiltrated the tech sector. Some people say it's inevitable. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm naive to believe that it wasn't inevitable because we didn't have to. It was a choice, like I said. But here we are. And that's not good for tech. That's my concern because I'm a tech entrepreneur. That's my thing. It's certainly not good for AI. So yeah, as I said, I can't really, I don't want to give you any predictions because I honestly don't know where we're going right now because things are evolving so quickly. Maybe by the time this video is out, things have changed. Something else would have happened, I'm sure. But my only thing I can tell you guys is that we've got one another. Let's keep this communication open. Let's carry on discussing. Let's carry on sharing our ideas. Let's work together. On LinkedIn, I made the point that with my company Nebula, there are other companies that are starting to reach out to say, hey, can we work together on this, on that? That's cool. Let's do this because at the end of the day, the power that I feel that I have, as it were, is the fact that I am out of the world and connections with VC. So I don't have any shareholders to bother me. I have nobody that can tell me anything and force me to do anything. Now, I fully understand. I have to say, I sympathize with Mark Zuckerberg because he is running a huge company indeed. And of course, he's got a lot of shareholders. It's his fiduciary duties to make sure the shareholders are well looked after, etc. If Trump, whatever threats he's given him, would have said to him, hey, you either do what I tell you or I'm going to screw you over. That would be a big problem for the company. Whether he likes it or not, I think he had to do what he had to do. And I'm not defending him here, by the way. But I feel that as part of the fiduciary duty, and some people say, hey, why doesn't he man up and just stand up to these people? He's powerful enough and rich enough. Yeah. But like I said, it's a choice. It's a choice. I made a choice that I do not want to have any shareholders. I made that choice in 2018, when I was building my current company. I was still involved with my other company that has shareholders, but then I exited all of that. 2022, that was basically the end. That's when I burnt the bridges. And yes, I've got a lot less money. I admit it, but hey, I feel free. The liberation feeling, it's truly unbelievable. It's like the analogy I like to use is like I was shackled and I broke my limbs to get out of these shackles and stay free forever. I'll do it again. I'll break my limbs again to be free. That's the issue. So I'm in a position where I don't need to be impacted by any of this thing. And that's why I'm sharing all of this story with you guys, because if you are in a position, if you are a budding entrepreneur, that's something you need to think about. Because if some of your VCs, for example, are basically supporters of a particular political party that becomes in government, they will want you and they'll say, hey, we've got a connection with the prime minister or with the president or whatever. We should do a contract for the company to make sure they make more money. As a CEO, you can't say no. Well, you can, but then they'll get rid of you, right? You've got major responsibilities if you've got shareholders. But if you don't have shareholders, you can then prioritize your own journey. You build your journey the way you want your journey to move into whatever direction that you choose. I made that decision. It's not an easy decision, but again, I'm in a very privileged position where I can do it. I totally appreciate that a lot of startup entrepreneurs don't have the money to do something like that. And that's why I always say, there has to be a way where we can potentially work together. Like I said, I've got companies that, they're applying for various funds and they want us to be their partners and vice versa. So, we're all reaching out to one another to say, well, how can we as, the independent community look after ourselves and really build an alternative path to the path that's been directed to us by a bunch of dudes in Silicon Valley? Because that's what's happening right now. Think about it. We literally have just a bunch of dudes in Silicon Valley that literally change their entire world's information ecosystem, not just the American ecosystem. I don't know about you. That doesn't sound like a fair deal to me. We need to have an alternative. And I'm hoping that this is an alternative. One of them. I know there are many other independent media outlets that are trying to do the same in various different fields. That's cool. I'll reach out to them as well. So the idea is that we need to have an alternative path for all of us. You can choose to go down the path of Elon Musk and Meta or whatever. That's fine. No, I'm not saying you're right or wrong. It's a choice you make, but that's life. But whatever you choose to do, there are consequences. And the question is, what are these consequences? We don't know. We have no idea. This year is an unprecedented year in so many different ways. I can't even begin to imagine. So as a way of finishing this, like I said, it's just my message of hope is that we've got one another. That's it. That's all I can say. And let's keep it at that. Yeah, we've got one another, support one another for the rest of this year, whatever happens. And as always, you guys, you're making a huge difference. Again, I really do appreciate how you're helping me build this thing. And I love you for that. Thank you so much. Make sure you spread the word, bring more people. Let's build a community out of this. The Substack community is growing beautifully. The LinkedIn community is growing. Same thing here, collectively on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. It's growing as well. Just click everything you need to click to make sure that our message goes forward and our community grows further. One of the things, before I finish, I really want to do is for us to organize face-to-face meetups. Yep. Keep an eye on that. Subscribe, and I'll let you know in due course. Guys, I'll see you in the next one. Much love. Peace.